Alrighty, so we have with us 4 of our alums to talk to you guys, particularly about some things. So at the far end is Dalen Atkinson, who's a freshman at Prairie View A&M College in Prairie View, Texas.
Yes, Prairie View, Texas.
Next to him is Melvin Houston, who's a freshman at Cal Poly Pomona. Since it's Cal Poly Pomona, you know where it is. Next is Devin Culpepper, who's a freshman at Chapman College in, I guess it's Orange?
Yeah, the city of Orange.
The city of Orange in Orange County. And on this side is Peyton Faulkner, who's a senior at the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School. And so we have an interesting mix. We have HBCU, we have state school, we have PWI, and we have Ivy. So it should give you some different, possibly give you some different perspectives.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, sir.
That's the Wharton School of Business?
Yep.
There's only one.
I was just making sure I didn't.
There's only one, but that's right. Nicholas, you know you can always ask the question. And you always do, which is great. Right? So after their little presentations, the floor is open for you guys to ask any questions that you might have. Okay?
Great. I'm doing a sin, which is to cross the face of the stage, but we can do it amongst family. So good afternoon and good morning to everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One more time. Good morning.
Good morning.
I really think we are honored to have 4 distinguished LAMP alumni here, and for all of the LAMP mentees, as hard as this is, I'm going to invite you to please remember that nobody really is here. Although there's a lot of people here, this is a tremendous opportunity for you to have a conversation with young men that literally sat where you're now sitting. And we want to make sure you feel comfortable to do that, even though there's cameras and there's family and there's mentors here. This is a chance for you to have a very, very intimate conversation. So can you make an agreement that you will engage like you're sitting on a couch talking to some of your brothers? Can we make that agreement? We okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Good. But I'm going to do one thing that's going to counteract that. I'm going to ask all of the mentees to stand up right where you are real quick, just real quick. And I want you to do one thing for me. I just want you to pivot 180 so you can see all the people on the perimeter outside here, all those people looking back at you. And I think before we start to allow us to focus on the young men in front of us, let's make sure we have a debt of gratitude to the people behind us who helped us get where we are now sitting. So these are parents, these are sponsors, these are mentors, these are archons, these are people fully here for one reason. They have a 100% interest in your success, and they want nothing in return but for you to be the very best version of yourself that you can be. And please do not take that room behind you for granted, because it's the room behind you that has prepared you to occupy the room that the 4 men in front of you now sit in. So please do yourselves a favor and don't ever take all these people behind you for granted. It is because of them that the 4 men in front of you are going to put a vision for you to pursue, but it's because of those who laid the foundation behind you. Please keep those people behind you very close to you, because they're going to allow you to go where you're getting ready to go. Okay? Now we can be seated. With that, we had 4 gentlemen be introduced, and I'm not going to talk long because they need to do all the talking. And the panel is going to be very simple today. There's really only 2 questions. Do you guys remember what the 2 questions are? Peyton?
One of them was, I think how the LAMP experience, what was your experience in the program or the value you got from it?
Stop. First question, Peyton. Can you please answer that question?
So the thing I really got from the program was just exposure to all sorts of different careers. I mean, a bunch of the mentors are in different fields that I guess I perhaps hadn't considered before. So when I was a freshman, I sort of had different interests, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And it's not like I immediately figured out by just seeing some people, but it helped to realize what exactly was out there, because it's possible that your mind is sort of limited to, I guess, what you see. And so it's good to see all sorts of different careers out there. So I think that was the biggest thing I took away from the program itself. And then Do you want me to talk about the San Antonio experience now, or wait?
Do you think they want to know about that?
I do think they want to know about that.
Tell me.
And then this past summer, actually, as a part of like being awarded the Boulé Scholars, there was this inaugural conference in San Antonio with scholars from across the country. There were about, I think, 7 or 8 other of them, which I was surprised by. Like, I didn't know it was going to be that personal. Another, actually, one from Pasadena, guy who graduated the year before me. And so we all went out there, and it was just great that we could talk to all these different doctors, lawyers, businessmen about their experiences, and they had us just do things that would make us uncomfortable. Like they had us, gave us no notice at all and told us to go up and give a 5-minute speech about ourselves, sort of like elevator pitch style, but I guess 5 minutes long. And just also being able to meet the other guys, to meet people who are similarly motivated and who are across the country. So now I have a network of people who are my age who, like one guy's, well, at least was working on Kamala Harris's campaign, and another guy's working at Amazon in Chicago. So these sort of connections that you have with people who look like you, your age, who are sort of on the same trajectory. So I thought it was definitely a great experience, and if any of you have the opportunity, you should definitely do that.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying business analytics at Wharton, so it's like the business school's version of data science. If anyone's interested in that, I can talk about it too.
And what are your plans when you graduate in June?
So when I graduate in June, as of now, I'm trying to start a tech company with some friends back at school. So it's risky, but I'm excited to see what exactly happens with it, because I think it's a good time to try it at this point in my life.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
We're going to bounce actually and do it back and forth. So we're going to start at the far right and ask the same question. Reintroduce yourself for those who maybe didn't catch you clearly, who you are and where you're currently going to school, and maybe a little bit about that poor GPA you earned the first semester.
Definitely. Hello everyone, my name is Dalen Atkinson. I know that most of you guys know me because I was sitting where you're sitting literally not that long ago. And when I say things change and happen very fast, I mean that in a very literal sense. I attend Prairie View A&M University, where I study computer science, and I'm minoring in entrepreneurship. And I'm happy to announce that I finished my first semester with a 4.0. It definitely had its challenges, but after you get acclimated to the college life, you need to definitely learn how to balance yourself. And I'd say answering that first question, which is some key things that I really took away from LAMP, from a really realistic perspective, it's that even when you're feeling like, oh, I don't want to wake up right now, I don't want to go to this event, I don't want to be social, I don't want to meet people, I don't want to shake people's hands, I don't want to, you know, be out there and get my name out there, it is extremely important. It is imperative that you ignore that feeling and push that feeling to the side and go out and meet new people and experience new things that you haven't experienced before, specifically in whatever school that you may attend, whatever university that you may attend. Getting your name out there is extremely important for all things, because it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned being at the LAMP program, being able to shake so many experienced people's hands and talk to them about their background and things that they've done and where they really got their start. They started through, you know, meeting other people and getting themselves out there, whether or not that was in college or above, pushing that feeling of laziness to the side and just kind of getting up, waking up however early you need to, and persisting to go out and get your name out there is one of the biggest things that I took away from LAMP. And also with that, being on time. Being on time is an extremely important thing, not only in the LAMP program, but in everything that you do post-LAMP. So remember that if you're not early, you're late.
One more time for someone in the back.
If you're not early, you're late. And that is taken very literal every school I'm sure that you attend. So definitely take that with you.
All right, give him a hand. That's good. Melvin Houston.
Hi, my name is Melvin Houston. I'm a first year at Cal Poly Money, as stated earlier. And the biggest thing I took away from LAMP was definitely the strong mentorship, of course, but definitely getting connections and be able to spread my bridges and get out there, get my name out there. I am very thankful for all the wonderful mentors we have here today, as they were able to get me into better connections with more and more people. I go to Cal Poly Pomona. I was referred to certain people at Cal Poly Pomona. These people in the room, they know everybody just about everywhere. And anywhere you go, you're going to be connected regardless. So keep these men and women in your life and make sure to keep them, as Mr. J said, behind you. And you're only going to do great things because of these people are propelling us young black men forward into the future. I am very grateful for that. And one thing I'm very proud of, because I was in the LAMP program, was that I was a recipient of the $10,000 scholarship for the Sigma Pi Phi Foundation, and my life has only been spiraling upward from there. So I appreciate that, and we'll have to show them our gratitude.
Last but by no means least.
I'm Devin Culpepper. I go to Chapman University, as Mr. G said. Kind of touching on the whole PWI. That's kind of the main thing I want to actually talk about, just because, so for those of you who don't know, PWI means predominantly white institution. And so Chapman University is in Orange County, specifically in the city of Orange. And so the African American population is 1.2% at a university that has over 8,000 or 9,000 undergraduate. And so if you just do the math in your head real quick, you'll quickly realize how small of a population that I'm a part of. And initially when you start going to college, I don't think, at least for me, I didn't anticipate that it would have that much of an effect on my social or academic life. But you kind of quickly realize how not difficult, but how different it is to go to a classroom and be the only person of color in that class, and how that continues to affect your social life as well. And I think LAMP, I know LAMP has given me the tools and techniques to further combat those issues and propel myself forward, because and retrospectively, being in a room full of so many accomplished and distinguished men, I don't think, while you're in the program, it's hard to recognize the value of that. And retrospectively, I definitely have started to really appreciate and gain perspective on what a unique experience this is, because when you go into a classroom, you're not going to have necessarily a black professor of color. You're not necessarily going to have those mentors. And so being in this room has so much value that you guys probably won't be able to grasp right now. But sitting here, I can tell you that it's one of the most impactful experiences that I've had through my life, and it's definitely allowed me to have confidence in myself pushing forward through classes and social situations, just because having that network, having those mentors, and having those experiences are really what start to build a foundation for yourself as a man and as a student. And so I definitely think that's what I've taken away from the program.
Well said. Well said. One last question, because we want to spend the time for you guys to ask questions. So get your questions ready, because I know you all have them, right? Get your questions ready, because we know you will have them. The last question, though, these gentlemen are all, 15, 16, 17, 18. You're not much older, but you're a little older. So this is really an important question as we pivot to their time. If you could sit where they're sitting now, and you could do something differently, what is that you would do differently and make sure that you want to make sure they do that you regret that you didn't do when you were sitting in the seat that they now occupy, now that you sit where you're sitting? So, said succinctly, if you're sitting there, what is the one regret of the thing that you didn't do, didn't say, activity you didn't fully participate in, that you say, looking back on, I wish I would have done that differently while I was in LAMP, to make sure that these young men do that one thing? And we will start with Mr. Houston.
Okay, well, I really wish that I knew about the LAMP program sooner. I was only able to get in for the 2018-2019 year, and I just wish I was able to come in as a freshman, as some of you are today, come into the LAMP program, because it's been a life-exchanging experience in just 1 year. So I want to know how great I would have been if I had spent 4 years in this program. I just wish I knew about it earlier.
Wow.
It's the only thing I could wish for.
Advertising.
Honestly.
Your check is in the mail.
Yeah. We got that on video. We're going to replay that. Let's go with Mr. Falk.
Sure. I think the biggest thing was probably just like don't be scared of sort of new arenas and things that you might not, I guess, necessarily know about, but things that you can look into. So for example, I had never experienced, like now I'm trying to do a tech startup, so that takes a lot of computer programming and all that, but there was no class like that at school. But a lot of the resources that I've used to learn right now have nothing to do with class. Like most of the stuff I've learned, I haven't learned in class, it's just been on my own. So essentially, like, I wish I would have known back then to just look online for different resources, find books. Like, you can learn actually a ton of stuff on your own. And like, from my study of people who've been very successful, particularly in business, because that's what I'm interested in, a lot of these people, whether it's like Elon Musk or Bill Gates, they just learn a ton on their own. So just like, don't be scared of things, even if you think, oh wow, this is some sophisticated, complex topic that I probably would need some professional to teach me. Like, no, you could probably pick up a book, and really, if you're dedicated about it and want to put in the time, you can learn these things. So I think that's definitely the biggest thing. I would go back and not be afraid of different topics, even if they seem complicated.
Well said. Good, good. Thank you for your candor, too. Mr. Culpepper.
Okay, yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away from LAMP and going back to my time in high school, I definitely think that being proactive is something that's heavily advocated for in LAMP, and taking advantage of your situation. And more specifically, whether that's in the classroom, whether that's sports related, whatever the situation may be, being able to network and take advantage of the people around you is something that I think is not necessarily neglected, but not often spoken about enough. Because just by talking to some of the gentlemen in the room, or talking to the professionals that you're going to meet throughout your time at LAMP, it's really going to become apparent, or it should become apparent through the time that you spend, that all of these people, as he was saying, have knowledge in different fields and different occupations, and through simple conversations, asking simple questions, being proactive and being alert within the time that you have here is going to be absolutely 100% beneficial. And I think that's one of the things that I not necessarily didn't do, but didn't take advantage of as much as I think I should have, because these people are far and above. They're professionals. As I said, they're distinguished in their field, and so having the opportunity to network and talk to them and gain personal experiences for yourself about the experience that they have had, whether that's professionally, whether that's socially, whether that's having lunch with their coworkers, whether that's developing a side project, whatever that is. It's just very important to be proactive.
Be proactive. That's it. Be proactive. Continue to learn, even on your own. Start the LAMP program as soon as possible. And last, Mr. Atkins, give us one thing. If you were sitting back there now, you say, I would have done differently to make sure I get the full benefit of the LAMP program. What's your word of wisdom?
Remain motivated at all costs. Remain hungry to learn more. Remain hungry to experience more. Remain motivated to get out there and learn more, no matter what that may be, or no matter how difficult it may seem. It's easy to fall kind of into a downward spiral of going through the same things every day, particularly, if you go to high school, or if you feel like you're living a really repetitive lifestyle. It's easy to fall into a habit of not really being motivated to do more things, or to experience more things, or to put yourself out there. But it's extremely important that no matter what age you are, you remain motivated and hungry to learn more and to experience things that you haven't experienced beforehand. And if you keep that motivation, people will notice that. People will see that you have a drive for experience, that you have a drive to learn whatever you may be interested in, and through that interest, you will meet new people and make connections that you hadn't made prior. No matter what you may be doing, remain motivated.
Excellent words of the West. Give our panel a great hand. And now, LAMP mentees, the floor and the room is yours. You have 4 tremendous resources who literally sat where you sat. Any question, they told us, me and Mr. Holmes, they just told us next door, any question about any topic they want to receive from you. So take advantage, and we'll start right here.
What were some of your fears going into specifically undergraduate university, and how did you confront those fears once you got to college?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. Well, for me, The story of how I actually got to Prairie View is crazy because I was supposed to go to UCLA prior. But everything happened really fast, and I was not expecting to, one, move to Texas, and to two, attend an HBCU. So I had to get ready extremely fast to get acclimated to this new culture. And really, the biggest thing that you have to do is go in with an open mind. If I had gone in thinking about how much I didn't like Texas in contrast to California, or how I had never been around so many black people, I don't know if I'm gonna actually even fit in as a black man. Like that's a real feeling that you can get. You need to make sure that you don't fall into a spiral of having a negative mindset, because mindset is everything in everything that you do. If you have a positive mindset, that will lead to positive reactions. Negative mindsets will lead to negative reactions naturally. So I was scared that I was going to go to Texas and go to this HBCU and everyone's going to look at me and be like, who's this proper speaking California boy? Like, what is he doing at, you know, our school at Prairie View? Because they take great pride in Prairie View. It's a very well-known HBCU. So getting there and actually meeting the people and being open to this new experience, it opened my eyes, and it allowed me to learn more instead of experience more negative experiences, simply through being open to meeting new people that I might not have met otherwise and doing more things that I hadn't done otherwise.
One more, you can answer that one, then we'll go to another question. Someone else?
Well,
Same question?
I'll speak for the choir here. I'll definitely know that everybody in this room can relate to this, but you know, time management was something I feared the most, because high school was definitely I guess a step down compared to college. College is definitely a step up. So, you know, if you can't manage your best in high school, you're gonna wonder how you're gonna do in college. But me, thankfully, I was able to get down on it, as some may say, and I was able. I definitely like hunkered down and made sure of course, education comes first, because I know that's what I'm there for. Like, you know, if on the weekends, you know, people are like, hey, you want to go out to do this and that? It's like, no, I gotta study for this exam on Monday on a Friday night. So it will prioritize your education and just make sure you keep your classes going, because if you fail a class, you're gonna be set back tremendously.
Yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous. So don't even think about failing a class.
Get down on it. Get down on it. I got that on the quote right here.
And this is specifically for Mr. Ackman. You said you do entrepreneurship, right?
Yes, minor in entrepreneurship.
So what does that entail, really?
For me, since I'm in the entry levels, it's mostly just analyzing really what a business is. A lot of people say that they want to start their own business. Okay, let's go into a little bit more in depth into what that means to what business, what kind of business, what do you mean by start your own business? Like, do you want to bring in other people? Do you, and then we go into business planning, and then we go into like finances, and you really just kind of look at all of the scopes and all of the different variables and factors that go into starting your own business and what it really means to be an entrepreneur, to start off as someone with a really, either by yourself or a really small team, and kind of branch out into making it a bigger team, and to make sure that you have all of the variables in place to successfully continue that business and to keep it on its legs.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Faulkner, why don't you also speak to that, because you're literally going to be an entrepreneur in about 6 months, right?
I mean, yeah, I never studied. I took some classes, because like Wharton obviously is business, so I took some classes on like the legal aspects of entrepreneurship, but I like didn't do a program formally. But yeah, I guess like you just learn a lot when you actually start doing it. That I'm sure, like I can't necessarily speak to, like I said, because I didn't actually take a program, but I think one thing you'll find out is a lot of things, like until you actually do them, you won't necessarily know. So I'm not sure, like studying entrepreneurship will be good, but you won't really get all the things you probably need until you start it. And so there are a lot of problems that I didn't even consider we would have until we actually started the company, and thinking about, okay, well, like what is the cost for this? What is the cost for that? Could we actually do this? And like you get beyond the point where you can just throw around ideas. You actually have to do concrete stuff. So yeah, that's been my experience so far.
And Mr. Holmes, do we have a program on entrepreneurship coming up?
Our February program is going to be on entrepreneurship. It's going to be an entrepreneurship network. And so we're looking to have 5 to 6 entrepreneurs in various industries who will be in different rooms, and you guys will be broken up into groups of 5 to 6, and you will get a chance to talk to every one of those entrepreneurs. And then we're going to have a panel afterwards that's going to be moderated by a black professor from Arizona State University who runs an entrepreneurship center at that university. So that's our February program. We're going to be doing entrepreneurship. So, Mr. Wynn, thank you.
You should be there. Question, please.
You said like don't fail a class. What happens when you do fail a class?
Say it loud for someone in the back, because I want this one to be very clear. Repeat the question.
You don't want to fail a class. What happens when you do fail a class?
Yeah,
They don't know.
To clear
So, as a former professor, I will tell you that if, for some reason, you happen to fail a class, there's 3 things you must do. 1, you call your parents and tell them that you failed the class. Don't wait for them to get a grade report on that. 2, you find out how you can make up the class. And 3, you pack your bags because you may have to leave town. But seriously, it's a great question, and at the same time, it should be an unnecessary question.
Yeah, exactly.
Because so none of you should be anywhere near a failing grade. A quick story, my son, when he was a sophomore in high school, tried to convince my wife and I that a C was an acceptable grade. I told him, he was in a private school, I said, well, yeah, you want to get C's, you come out of the private school, you go to the public school, I'm not paying $10,000 a year for a C. So C's are not acceptable grades. Okay? Now you may get one, and you should, if you do, you want to look at what did I do that resulted in my getting this grade, because I don't want to do that again. Okay?
Gil, if I may interject, being that I'm involved in a lot of things going on at the colleges these days, trying to help out Melvin and others, other students that are in college right now. That question has come up in conversation with some of the students that I mentor that are in college. And the first thing that I always tell them is, where are your resources? What assets, what networks do you have at the school that you can reach out to in that program? It might be a College of Engineering, College of Business, whatever that school is. Those folks that you have set up, you've already talked to, that can help you find out what happened, why you didn't get the grade that you thought you should have gotten, and how you can get yourself back on track. Now, fortunately for most schools, these students are going to go to, there's always somebody who's been to that school before. So my recommendation is talk to and see if you can find somebody that has been at that school before or is currently working at that school that you can talk to about grades, classes, your study, your course, your discipline, whatever it's going to be. Try and set yourself up with a mentor. Somebody who can mentor you, who can talk to you, can work with you, and that's that person that you're going to be able to contact should your grades go south, that will help you get yourself back on track, right? For Melvin, he knows, right? He knows a lot of people that can help him do that at Cal Poly, including the president of the school. So my message to you is, whatever school you choose, make sure you set up your network, your resources, your contacts for people that you can call should things go south. And that's not just about grades. That's not just about grades. That's about anything that might happen that could impact you or your life. And you think, I need to go talk to somebody. Set yourself up. Okay?
Great word, Mr. Ruffey. Let's go right here.
I had a question for Mr. Faulkner.
Yeah.
Have you done any internships like over your 4 years of being in college? Or
So I did an internship, not related like to what I'm going to do now, but I did an internship at the mayor of LA's office, his Office of Public Engagement. That was after freshman year. After sophomore year, I just did this coding boot camp in San Francisco. Then last year I was back here just like studying up on some things on my own, but not, like besides that first year, that was the only internship I did.
And how were you able to network yourself to get in that position?
I think I just like emailed them. I know they had like a posting online or something, and I think the deadline may have passed, but I was like, okay, well, let's just see what happens. So yeah, I just emailed them, and then it ended up like working out.
You know who you might want to have lunch with today if I were you? You might want to sit down and say, show me the blueprint with their phone. Other questions? Right here. Yes?
This is for Dalen. 2 questions. So how come you chose HBCU over UCLA, and do you think you are more comfortable at HBCU than you would be at UCLA?
That's a really good question. I ended up choosing Prairie View over UCLA because I got an extremely good scholarship from Prairie View, a full ride scholarship from Prairie View. Yes. It all happened so fast because I literally received a phone call saying that I was a Regent Scholar to attend Prairie View A&M University, which is, you know, a full ride scholarship. So at that point, I made a choice, and which ended up as more really a financial business decision. Do I want to take out loans and really work my butt off at UCLA to get into the engineering program because it has merit, or do I go to Prairie View A&M University where my education is already paid for, I already have a secured spot in the engineering program, and it's undergrad, so I can learn, you know, pretty much the same things that I'm learning at UCLA. So I decided to take the money and take the new experience, the new location, over the, you know, distinguished vision of UCLA and the student loans that would come with that. And, you know, I just wanted to take the money. And actually, once I got to Prairie View, being in that new environment and being in Texas was, you know, no lie, extremely difficult for me at first. First getting there, it was a lot of observing. It was a lot of like kind of looking to see what's considered, I guess, like kind of the norm for that new area. Especially being in Texas, they do things different there. Being at an HBCU, they do things different there, and I'm just someone from California, so I stood back and I kind of observed my new environment. And after really seeing that I'm not any different, I don't need to approach the situation like I'm just completely unknown to this. After getting comfortable, I would say I'm a lot more comfortable at an HBCU than I am being at UCLA, because even though it's good to be well versed in an environment such as UCLA where it's extremely diverse, being at an HBCU really gives you your sense of pride and identity. Being around people that look like you, just as we are right now in this room, gives you that sense of knowing who you are and knowing that you can achieve more, and knowing that even though it is still competitive, you know that you have people in your corner that are supporting you. And HBCUs really give you that family type feel, like you have real family in your corner there for you. So I do feel, I can say I feel more comfortable at an HBCU at Prairie View than I'd say at UCLA, and that eat or be eaten kind of environment.
Time for 2 more. Yes, sir.
You said that you went to a more predominantly white college. How does that affect your, you said it affected your academics and your social life. Can you like elaborate on that?
Sure. I think in terms of academics, it's more so the feeling of that you're kind of put in the situation as to represent your race, your ethnicity, if that makes sense. Not that you have to do that, but it can sometimes feel like that, because whether you're in an English class, a sociology class, even a math class, you're kind of in that position of, okay, when the topic of race, ethnicity, of social justice, when those types of topics are discussed, you're kind of put in the situation of as a representative. And so, and you kind of have to start to recognize that obviously the African American race is not a monolith. That's kind of something that's been coined, but just trying to get past that stigma and making sure that you make it clear that no, you're not necessarily represented, but you can provide that perspective. And so, but you also don't have to necessarily educate everyone, because that's not your job as a black man in college. You're there to be educated. And so it's it's definitely in the classroom. It's kind of you have to develop a perspective and almost a strategy as to how to conduct yourself in the classroom. Socially, I think at any college you kind of have to make efforts to develop your own social circle, but especially when you're at a PWI, you have to make a very committed effort to start developing a network as well as a social group, because you can't necessarily, be on the basketball team and be like, oh, you play basketball, I play basketball, you're black, I'm black, okay, cool, we're good. You kind of have to make that connection with a bunch of different people, because it's not necessarily already established. And even at HBCU, he was saying it's not necessarily established there either, because it's a different culture. So and that's what it is at a PWI or any institution that's predominantly white. It's you have to recognize the type of culture and the type of social situation that you're in, and be able to create support systems within that to help yourself succeed. Yeah.
Really good answer. Great question. Let's go right there.
I've been told very many times by like my parents and like even teachers at high school that if you have a teacher you don't understand, you better get used to it, because in college you can't change it.
Oh, yeah.
You can't change it?
Can't change it.
Repeat the question.
Yeah.
Repeat the question. So everybody hears. It's a great question, but slowly and repeat it loud.
If you have a teacher who you can't understand, or even that you might like not have the best like introduction to, so they might dislike you or something like that, you can't change that class or anything?
I actually have a pretty good experience with this. So I had a Spanish class, and my teacher was very just strict and by the book. We would basically kind of just read exercises through a Spanish textbook through class, and it wasn't a very interactive class by any sense. And so it was kind of just, it was a very stagnant environment. It wasn't very inclusive, interactive, and I kind of struggled through that class. And you can't change the class after, I think, there's like an add or drop period, and you can't change after that. And so after that point, you're kind of, like Daniel was saying, you kind of have to be motivated, because you're going to find throughout college, you're guaranteed to have a professor that you're not going to click with, that you're not going to find stimulating in whatever the sense of the word. And so you're going to have to find your own means of self-motivation and self-preservation. And so you kind of just, you have to deal with it. And that's part of the college experience at that point. It's developing your soft skills. It's developing your mentality and your personality. So, if you think about it positively.
Yeah, I can also speak a little bit on this as well. I just recently took my calculus class, Calculus 2, which is an extremely important class for my major. And my professor had probably the thickest accent I've ever heard. There were literally entire sentences where it was just like unintelligible. Like I could not, I couldn't understand it. And when I say in situations like that where it's an important class, where you need the content, you need the class, but the teacher, you're legitimately like the professor, you're trying to understand them, but you can't. That's when, like he said, you have to be motivated. Khan Academy, tutoring sessions, literally looking over at the person sitting next to you and being like, what did he say? Did you catch that? Like you need to, if you just sit there and isolate yourself and just kind of go to the class, I didn't catch that, but whatever, I'm a scribble. Like it's going to be really tough to thrive in that class. So that's when you need to put yourself out there, and reach out to those resources to get a better understanding and a better grip of whatever class that you're taking, where you actually may not understand that professor, because that's a real thing at probably every college, school, university that you attend.
Great. Let's give all of our alumni. And we're giving each just literally 15 seconds, just a final word from each of you. We'll start here and just go right down the road, left to right. Just a final word that you want to impart to the LAMP mentees, and then we'll turn it back over to Mr. Holmes. So we'll start with you, Mr. Faulkner. Just a final word, shot of wisdom, inspiration, motivation, whatever you want to make sure you impart in these young men coming behind you. Final word.
I think the thing that everyone sort of said up here, the thing that encapsulates that is like, don't be afraid to go for it. Don't be afraid to ask. Like, people can't read your mind. You don't get things unless you ask for them.
Okay. I think something that was mentioned but not necessarily highlighted is asking for help. I think within the Black community is kind of a stigmatism that we don't like to ask for help. Me specifically, I've definitely had my experiences with that, even through college as well. And so I think asking for help, tutoring, Khan Academy, all these different resources, it's mentioned, but it's not understood, and that's something that I think you guys should all take in and really think about, because it's those steps and those moves that you're gonna make to better yourself that are gonna to create those support systems. That's what you really need.
What I could say, my parents told me this, and your parents may have told you this, but definitely enjoy your high school experience. It's only 4 years. It's something you're never going to get again. High school is different from college. College is more like a life aspect. We know high school you're a little bit more sheltered. Just make sure you enjoy the sports now, you know, your friends and your teachers. Like, that's something you're never going to get again. So it's going to go by real quick. You know, you're not going to get all your proms in every year. So just make sure it's an enjoyable experience. It's something that you appreciate.
I'd say the best paths to take are often the most difficult. So if you feel like life is really easy, or you feel like things are repetitive, or you feel like you're just coasting, it's time to switch it up. And it's time to change things to the point where you're exposed to things that you may be afraid of. And if you keep that in mind and you hold that for the rest of your life, you'll find that you learn a lot more than you would have if you didn't. So always take the most difficult path, and that's the path of learning and putting yourself out there.
All right, give our alumni.
So if I could actually summarize a little of what all they said, it's a saying that I learned about 35 years ago that I've lived by. It's really simple. If it's to be, it's up to me. Let's get serious. If it's to be, it's up to me. And that doesn't mean that it's up to me all by myself. It's up to me to make it happen. Whatever it takes to make it happen. Okay? So you may want to just etch that in your brain. If it's to be, it's up to me.